Welcome to Who Put This On, Season 7, Episode 61, where we watch 007 Road to a Million, Season 1, Episode 1. And you can only measure a snake. That's not right. There's only so many times you can measure a snake. I'm Chris Lorenz.
Proper bit of a kit. This is Noah Singer.
At the top of the mountain, there's a small loch. This is Hugo Max.
Those were all quotes from the show we watched this week. But last week we watched The Golden Bachelor, and we put a poll on X, formerly known as Twitter, and you guys voted it a middle third show. Some of us agreed with you, some of us didn't. You'll have to listen. Tell us what you thought about this show on X, formerly known as Twitter. Noah, what was that show?
This show, you mean? 007.
That's exactly what I said. Do not go back in the tape and look.
From the producers behind the James Bond movies comes 007 Road to a Million. 9 pairs of everyday people are unleashed on an epic global adventure through a series of Bond-inspired challenges for a shot at winning a life-changing £1 million prize. The controller, played by Brian Cox, is the mastermind behind the game, watching the pairs as they hunt for 10 questions he's hidden around the world. That is 007 Road to a Million on Amazon Prime.
Before we get into this show, I want to apologize for the audio last week. We got kicked out of our normal audio recording, and we're using a new one, and hopefully this week will be better. I want to apologize if it's still bad. We're working on it. But yeah, so this show, it shouldn't surprise me that the first thing Amazon does with MGM is make a reality show, but at least with the 007 brand. But I guess they did.
They criminally misused this IP. As far
Criminal.
as I'm concerned.
It is criminal. Yeah.
I do have to say that it is filmed really well. Like, it's filmed in like 4K HDR, and you're out in the middle of Scottish like Highlands. It looks nice.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. The picture is great. Like, the scenery of this show is beautiful.
Like, of all reality shows, this one, like, you want to look at. Like, it's pretty nice. It's filmed like a really good documentary, I think.
Yeah. Which is weird because reality is all about making it on the cheap, but yet they cranked up that production value.
Well, they cranked up the budget on the show for sure. You can't go cheap when you use a 007 name, but you also just ended up going cheap because it's a reality show.
Yeah. I forgot about that. I didn't put 2 and 2 together that it's Amazon MGM production, which it obviously is. But yeah.
It says that right at the beginning. It's an Amazon. It doesn't even say MGM. It says Amazon MGM.
I missed that, I guess.
I mean, they got Brian Cox to be the host for this show. Like, he's I would say he's close to A-list, if not A-list actor.
Like, what a get. And I can't believe they wasted him on this.
I mean, they got that dump truck of money that they just left at his house. So, like,
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, annoying. Go ahead, Noah.
I think we're like skirting around a little bit. So the show's terrible. Yet they put in so much money into production and getting Brian Cox. But, like, what makes it so bad?
I don't necessarily think it's terrible. It's definitely not good. What makes it terrible, or what makes it not good, is just like it's uninteresting. Like, I don't care to watch people walk across the Scottish Highlands, and I definitely don't care for them to take 5 minutes to answer a simple question. Like, there's no tension for me.
They're answering these trivia questions that are genuinely, like, easier than what you'd encounter at, like, trivia night at a bar.
Oh, it's very trivia night. It's extremely trivia night.
Like, The stakes are weird. Everything about the show is weird. It just does not work.
Okay, let's take a step back and just go over what happens in this episode. So in this episode,
Mhm.
they take two groups of two through the Scottish Highlands. So they're in Scotland. They're like
Yeah.
they do like a hike pretty much, and then they
Mhm.
have to like go in some sort of water feature and find something. And that something is a case where you answer a trivia question. You get the trivia question right, you win £5,000. If you get it wrong, you go home.
Yep.
You out of here.
Yep. Outta
And
here.
then one group did that twice, and then ended up going to Venice. And I thought this part was a bit more interesting, where they had to an hour to find some sort of house in Venice, and then break in, and then find something to answer a question, which was how long is this snake? And the snake was like a boa constrictor, and yeah, it was pretty. For some people, I feel like this would have been. Even for me, I feel like this would be hard to do, to like measure a snake. But anyway,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
they have to answer that question, and then the show does a Netflix where it doesn't tell you if they answered it right or not until
I
you
know.
watch the next
I know.
episode.
Yeah.
Which-
They got me. I had to watch the next minute.
Which of course, but like you just watch the beginning of the next episode, then you turn it off. It's not like I keep it
Right.
and keep watching it, right?
Well, I think it's probably for international distribution. I'm guessing when it's not streaming.
No, it's Prime.
No.
They're never going to give that up. There's no Marvelous Mrs. Maisel streaming or airing on TV anywhere else.
You don't think so? Like other
100%
countries?
is
Absolutely
streaming.
not.
I don't
This
know.
is a
about that.
this only happens in streaming because you can watch the next episode right now. They want you to sit down and like spend 800 hours watching Netflix.
They just want to get you in for that first minute.
Yeah. Well, the chances you turn it off after that first minute, I guess, might be low. I don't know.
Probably. Yeah.
Clearly not measuring my household because I definitely just don't do it all.
It might be for their metrics, so they can say, "See, like 100 million people watched at least the second episode."
Yeah.
It's all about
Juice
those
the
metrics.
Juice it.
Definitely metrics. So that's kind of what happens in this episode, and then they've got the host, which we talked
Yeah.
about a little bit, Brian Cox. But what I wanted to mention about the hosting job is that they clearly just filmed all the host stuff like at a different time and try to
Oh,
make
yeah.
it seem like Brian Cox is reading the clues and like narrating these people's journeys as they're doing them. And I'm just like, does anyone believe this? Like, it's
Definitely.
clearly not
Definitely.
happening.
I mean, nobody watches as much reality TV as. I mean, there's obviously some people that do, but no, it is definitely believable if you are not really clued in.
It feels so schlocky to me. It feels like a bit.
I mean, it
You
is.
know when you
It's
listen
pretty
to the
obvious.
You know when you go listen to the radio and they do like bits, like they get the lawyer to call in and like it's kind of schlocky and like what's going to happen, or even those fake ones where like they get the ex-girlfriend to call in and it's like these are just things that reality shows do that just like you're just like roll your eyes at. Like I can't.
Sure.
I don't like this. Just like confessionals and stuff, but at least with confessionals, it feels personal and real, and this just feels. It pulls me right out of the show. I'd rather just like not have this A-list actor in the show than like always cutting to him pretending like he's watching the TV.
I feel like we've seen a couple of shows that try and pull this trick, and it never works.
No.
I mean,
Well,
the
yeah.
obvious one is Cleveland Hustles.
That one didn't even cut to him. It was just the intro.
I know, but
Yeah,
we've seen a couple other ones.
I feel like the big thing which gives it away is like they show Brian Cox in this like villain lair. They really make him like a Bond villain, which I find a weird choice. But he's like watching from like 12 different cameras at once, and it's like they're not live streaming 12 different cameras. Come on.
Yeah, it is just. But I do appreciate they did really try really hard to make this like Bond. Like they played the Bond music, they showed classic Bond places, and at least I think there was a classic
Did they?
Bond place in Venice, I think.
I don't know.
Also,
I was trying to figure out why this is not just the Amazing Race. To me, I could not find anything very
There's-
related to Bond.
The music. What do you
completely-
mean?
no, I agree with Noah. Like, okay, the music, whatever. Like, the actual content of the show, the actual stuff you're watching, like, it's just The Amazing Race. There's
I disagree.
Hmm.
I think it feels like more of its own thing because it doesn't do it's not a race. It's more of like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but with hiking. Like you got to answer the questions like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Sounds
You're not
riveting.
actually you're not in a race. No, it's not. I'm not trying to defend the show. I don't think it's good. It's not a good show. I just don't think it's like bottom of the bottom terrible.
Mm,
And I don't think it's The Amazing Race. It's not. There's no racing.
I mean, yes, there's no racing, but like doing an adventure throughout like the world. I don't know. It was going through my head.
I
Amazing
mean,
Race.
yeah. When I saw the premise and heard the premise, I thought it was going to be The Amazing Race.
and then when I
before
watched the
thought
show,
there was gonna be
I
two
also
people.
thought,
Yeah.
But watching the show, it definitely doesn't have that frenetic competition energy to it. Like you're missing
No.
out on all of that.
No,
Like I'd
you
argue
are
it's
right.
worse. It's worse than The Amazing Race.
You are right that yes, maybe like line by line, scene by scene, it is not. But when I am in the show, all I can think is Amazing Race.
When I'm watching the show, I'm
Hmm.
thinking, why am I not watching The Amazing Race?
Yeah. Well, okay, so
This show is definitely worse than that show. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that much.
so one of the things you talked about were you talked about the snake, but I think we got to talk about the Bone Brothers.
yeah,
we
sorry,
can
why are they called the Bone Brothers?
Yeah,
I
like,
mean, I know why. That's their last name, but you can't go. That's like calling yourself the Cherry Tomato Boys. You can't do that.
yeah, it's like it's a bad porno name. Like, come on, guys, come on, what are you doing?
Their names
Uh,
are James and Joey.
I mean, in the Succession universe, it's like they're the Disgusting Brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they called the Scottish Highlands Level 1. So they had to like I forget what the bros had to do. They had to hike over a mountain and
And go to
their
the
question
loch. In
the
the loch.
question was like pretty easy. Like I know they're doing this whole thing where like you win 5,000, 10,000, 25, and eventually you get up to $1 million if you know
1 million.
get the $500,000 question right or whatever. So it was what Shakespeare character is based on the Scottish king? Hamlet, Richard III, or Macbeth? Now, which one of those is Scottish?
Wow, that's a real head scratcher, Chris.
I know, isn't it? So they get Macbeth correct. Then they I was confused on what happened here. They stole a car, right? They stole this car.
No, they were given the car.
They were
They had
given
to go
the car,
find it. Yeah.
and then it breaks down at some point.
Well, no, it just didn't have any fuel in it. It was, planted by the producers.
So
Yeah.
planted to not have enough fuel. Okay.
Mhm.
Then they took a bus, I think.
I don't know what they did,
And-
but they show up at this farm with a Rolls
Yeah.
Royce in it.
Yeah, they get to like a car garage.
Then they have to find a loch. Or no, that was a second group of people. Never mind. I'm reading my notes in a weird order. I apologize.
Yeah, so we have the Bone Brothers, and then we got the sisters. After
Yeah.
that.
The Bone Brothers' second question was the speech from King Richard on the eve of World War One, World War Two, or D-Day.
Yep.
Like, if anybody's ever seen a trailer for the King's Speech, they can probably figure this out.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, you know it's not D-Day because no one's doing a speech on the eve of D-Day.
Yeah, and also, like, they played the speech and it's very obvious who they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I believe it was World War II.
Correct.
My head is blanking. For some reason, I was thinking it was World War One because of Queen Elizabeth was around for so long, but she became queen during the war, not.
I didn't even know. For World War One, I kind of rolled it out because I was like, I don't even know if people are listening to the radio. World War One, like I was like, is that even a mass
They definitely
technology? Are they? Yeah, I don't know.
The radio exists or before World War One.
Okay.
But does everyone have it? I don't know. That's a better question.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like scale technology, right? That like you would do a radio speech. I was like, yeah.
Certainly by after the war in the 20s, everyone had a radio. Anyway, we're way off topic. Yes. Then we had our second group of two, Sana and Saka. I apologize for that. Tweet at me. I'm sorry.
Tweet it.
They are the ones that arrive on a bus. And they have to find a loch. And I don't know what a loch is.
It's a lake. Like
Loch
Ness is just Lake Ness.
On the top of a mountain.
Yep.
It seemed like they had a lot of trouble finding this loch. And they get in this water, and all I can think about is how cold is this water? Like, they don't seem like they're freezing, but they're wearing pants and a coat. And I'm like, if you're wearing pants and a coat, can you really be going into this water? Like what time of year is this? This is what's going through my head.
I have been in the Scottish Highlands in September, October, and yeah, it's cold.
I can imagine it's very cold. Yeah.
I mean, there's no way they filmed this in September. Like, I just, like, I don't know what time. It has to be the middle of summer, right?
Probably. I don't know.
It's the only time you'd probably even imagine getting into the Scotland lake.
It looked pretty cold. They weren't dressed for the summer.
When I'm watching this, the two things going through my mind are, like, their shoes are completely fucked if they have sneakers. And also one of them, like, fell in this mud, like, pit that went up to her waist. It was nuts. Like, seems like they had a really rough time compared to the guys who had to climb over a mountain and go to the ocean. That sounds nice. That sounds pleasant.
Yeah. I will say too, like, the guys were somewhat entertaining. Like the brothers had a pretty good on-screen presence. The sisters were very sweet, but they just weren't as entertaining. Like they seem like better people, but just not as good for TV.
I mean, they were on screen for a total of like 5 minutes.
Yeah, judge a book by its
I do think that's one of the problems with this show is like the entertainment comes from these people, and if they're just regular people, and that's the premise of the show is regular people are on these random adventures, and like they have to be entertaining, or you have to be entertained by being in the Scottish Highlands, or like the challenges have to be entertaining. Where I argue the second set of challenge, the Venice challenge, was way more entertaining.
Oh yeah, the Venice challenge was much better.
Like
I
just
scenery
the
wasn't
Scottish
good.
Highlands challenge is not a good challenge.
Yeah, it's not as entertaining because I think it's less Amazing Race. There's not as many twists and turns. Where in Italy, they're like, parlay English. I don't know how to speak. Talk Italian.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, the Bone Brothers are the least Bondy people out there. They're just two lads. You'd expect to see them in Ibiza.
Yeah.
Well, before we get off the sisters, their question was who tried to conquer Scotland in 84 AD. Was it the Romans, the Huns, or the Vikings? And like, I didn't need the multiple choice here, but I was surprised that they got this question wrong. But
Yeah,
I don't know if it's necessarily terrible that they didn't know. You know, it's not like what like what like I don't know what the good question is that everyone should just know.
it's not
For
like
some,
was Macbeth Scottish?
yeah, sure. For some reason, I was like, "What color is purple?" And I was like, "That's not a question."
I mean, I would say that none of these questions were slam dunks. Even though you're dunking on the Macbeth one, like none of these were like, what's the first letter of the alphabet? None of them.
Which alphabet?
The ABC alphabet.
Alpha,
Uh,
beta, gamma, delta.
I personally thought the King's Speech one was a gimme, but okay.
I thought this one was a gimme. I
Yeah.
was like, obviously
I
not the
had no idea.
Vikings. They're not around. They're not around 84 AD, and neither are the Huns.
They're still Visigoths.
And like the Romans conquered England, and around that time. Like, why would like what? I guess you just don't know world history at all at that point, or at least British history,
Yeah.
and you're in Scotland.
Yeah.
You know,
It made me humble on my knowledge, even though I'm decent at Jeopardy and decent at Trivia Bar Night. But yeah, now I know.
no, and knowing
Yeah.
is half the battle.
Fair. Yes. All right. So the brothers go to Italy. Yeah, we got the brothers going to Italy. The girls lost. They got booted out. And how do they lose? How do they communicate that they got the wrong answer? I think that's an important part.
Is it? Is it?
I mean, yeah, it's
They
fine.
had a gender reveal party.
Yeah, when you choose 1, 2, and 3, there's smoke grenades, and if you got the right one, it's green. Otherwise, it's red.
Yes.
I wouldn't really want to open one of these like in front of my face personally.
No.
Maybe do it downwind.
Yeah, I don't know. It was fine. It's something fun,
Yeah.
but nothing crazy.
Is James Bond renowned for his use of smoke grenades?
I mean, probably, but more like as a gimmick out the back of his car or something.
Right. Yeah.
So then they had a $10,000 question. We talked about that, and then they had the $25,000 question where they were in Venice. The boys, at least.
Bone Brothers.
The boys, the Bone Boys. They have to find some specific house on a specific street. So they're asking a bunch of people in Italy where the street is, where the house is, or whatever. Then they have to break into this house, and there's nothing on the screen to make it seem like, oh, when you get to this house, you'll have to break in as their prompt. No, they just get there and then they break in. Like, I hope you got the right house.
Yeah, I'm sure production, there's obviously a cameraman there. I'm sure somebody would have stopped them if, oh, that's not the right house.
They definitely would have stopped them.
Although that would be excellent. Excuse me, television.
That's good TV.
That would be good TV.
Until they get arrested or something.
It's too good for this show.
Okay, side tangent. How come there's no reality show that's just following trick-or-treaters and people knocking on doors and some doors just not going well? That would be entertaining.
Yeah. It's called How to Catch a Predator.
I mean, think of the suspense. If you put them in the right neighborhood, every door, who knows? Every door.
All right. This is why we're not reality show producers. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna watch out. 5 years from now, watch out. This is gonna be a hit.
All right. There's a lot. I'm put $5,000 that will not happen in 5 years.
I will bet you. We can talk about the currency after.
Okay.
But yeah, let's go.
All right. So then they get to this house and they get into this upper floor. Which, why would you break into the upper floor? Who's telling you to do that? Because
Yeah.
I knew
Oh.
that part.
No, I mean, didn't they say it's on the second floor?
I don't. I
They
guess
did.
they did because I
did.
didn't. Okay. And then they find this snake, and the question is how long is this snake? Is it? They give 3 different things, and they kept measuring the snake and not getting the same answer. Which measuring a snake, that's hard. I imagine that's pretty hard to do, especially when you're not like a snake wrangler. You know,
It's also a little on the nose for the Bone Brothers. Come on.
snakes. You know, I don't understand that statement. Like
Max-
what?
He's saying both of them are arguably phallic.
Yes.
Okay.
a
I'm
little
like,
on the nose.
I feel like it would a little bit on the nose if they actually had to like, you know, get some horse semen or something. I don't know.
Do they do that in Amazing
Have you
Race?
seen Wild Boys before? They've done it on there.
That was like the Jackass.
It was like
right?
the show after Jackass with a couple
Mm.
of people, but yeah.
No, I don't remember that. But what went through my mind was if it was a Fear Factor challenge.
Oh yeah, that would be on the nose.
Noah,
So
can you
they
tell us
got-
if they got it right?
They got it right. It was
They got
65
it right.
centimeters.
No, well, I don't
no,
know.
it was 265.
Yeah, so the 3 options they had was it was 185, 225, or 265. And so they were quickly able to get to like roughly between like 250 or 270, something like that. And they're like, okay, clearly it is this 265 one. And yeah, I mean, they did the job. Like they weren't too scared, and yeah, they did very well in this challenge. I think we talked about before, but they did impressively well with the big snake.
In their defense, I would not expect to see this question at trivia night.
That is fair. That is fair. Yeah,
For sure.
I don't think I've ever seen a snake at trivia night.
Yeah, so that's how the show ends. And we talked about how the show feels different than a regular reality show with like the 4K HDR and, you know, really almost like a half nature documentary, half reality show. But it's like
Yeah,
all reality show, but filmed like a nature documentary. It's really weird. So shall we get to questions? Questions?
Take it
I
away.
think so.
Yeah. I'm not sure who the worst human being is.
I think it's got to be the producers who greenlit this. Like
Yeah,
they got the IP and they just fail in the execution, in my opinion.
I'm going to say it's Barba Broccoli, who's the real name of the person who runs like the bonds division at MGM.
Barbara Broccoli.
Yeah, it sounds like a fake name. It sounds like a
Yeah.
bonds. I'm reasonably sure that's her name. I can't look
That
it up
sounds like
because
a kid's
Okay, we're-
cartoon.
we're gonna get some clicky clacks.
Barbara
Broccoli.
British American
Oh,
film producer.
What you got, Mister Internet Corner?
Yes, so she's like a royal knight, or she has a CBE in her name, the most excellent order of the British Empire. So she's like been
And she controls
Maybe?
the James Bond film franchise. So yeah, I think Barbara Broccoli is the worst person on the show.
maybe I just don't. But again, like they went out in a lot of angles of this show, right? Like they got Brian Cox. The production's good. I think the casting is even halfway decent, right? Like they put a lot of time into planning out these treks, but it comes together so poorly. And like, whose job is that? Is it the director? I don't know.
I still
Who
think
dropped it?
your main problem with the show is just whoever decided to go to the Scottish Highlands. Like, I just think that this is so poorly thought out that whoever that person is the one that needs to get fired and is the worst person. Because I do think that Italy, if the Italy segment was first, I think your tune would be very different.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. Because Italy was better, and so it could be all on the up and up from here.
All right. Which
I'm curious if all 9 teams start out in the Scottish Highlands.
I am
That
curious as well.
that would suck ass if true.
Yeah, the show
Yeah.
would be absolute bottom of the bottom if everyone started out in the Scottish Highlands.
You know, that's something else we didn't call out. So it is was it eight teams or 9
I think it was nine
teams?
teams because they mentioned £9 million.
So what's really interesting, we got 9 teams. They really only introduced us to 2 of them. Like they did a flash intro to all 9. But I found that very different for an episode 1.
This is just a different format, right? Like it's not a race. It's just like each team is on their own, and so there's no need. They don't interact, so you don't need to do all 9 at once.
Yeah.
That I mean,
interesting.
that I liked. They only introduced 2 teams.
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely helps you keep track of the show. It's just so it's like it's just very different. Usually they would throw you in.
For sure. Would this show be better as a TikTok or a Quibi?
Sure.
I think it's like an 8-minute Quibi it could be good. You get like the one segment of them to a question. But
Yeah,
maybe
I'd
that's
buy
too
that.
long. I don't know. Depends. I feel like again, if it's 8 minutes of them in the Scottish Highlands, like I don't want to see that. But I guess you could skip that one and go to the 8 minutes in like Italy or something. If you don't like that challenge, easier to skip.
Yeah.
60 seconds of the Scottish Highlands. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah. I think even 8 minutes. I don't know. TikTok came to mind first because you got like the good scenery shots, give the little intensity, get some of the comedic slant, bing bang bong.
Ping, bang, bong.
Yeah. That's
I think it's
Hollywood
too quick.
talk.
Because I mean, it depends on like you're speeding through all that for like a
Yeah.
90-second TikTok.
Yep.
Let's get some drinking rules on the books here.
Yes.
So obviously, if they get the question wrong, I feel like if you get the question wrong, you got to finish your drink because they're out. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, that's good.
Or maybe it's like if you got the question wrong, you have to finish your drink. What do you think? Because I would have been pissed at those people that got the Roman one wrong. I'm like, come on, guys! Like,
We don't need to rubber stamp your drinking rule, Chris.
I'm trying to have a conversation with you, Max, on
Yeah.
the drinking rule.
So-
That's all.
I think so. It's almost like a parlay bet, right? Like you have to make a choice when they ask the question, but then you can parlay it based on their answer as well.
I don't know pirate rules, Noah.
All right. I'm changing my rule. If you get the question wrong, you take 2 drinks. If they get the question wrong, you take 2 more drinks. How about
Okay,
that?
I like that. That's a good one. Approved.
True.
Noah, you got one?
Yeah. Every time they cut to Logan Roy, take a drink of your Gojo.
Max?
Every time one of the Bone brothers says like Bone James Bone, which didn't happen this episode, but I'm sure it's gonna happen, you take a drink.
Yeah.
Anytime you go, wow, because it looks beautiful, take a drink.
Actually, hold up. Is one of the Bone brothers named James?
Yes.
I think so. I
So
think they
that's
called
one-
him. I think they
that's-
called him Jimmy though.
That's one letter off from James Bond's James Bone. That's
Oh,
crazy.
man, maybe
That's
that's
it's the number
that's
one
the
reason
joke.
he's on the show.
Maybe that's why they gave them the answers to the question,
yeah.
like so they could stay on the show.
Yeah. Okay,
Who's
take
gonna
a
hook
drink.
up?
Oh,
Who's gonna
what's
hook up next?
Bone brothers.
Oh, well, there's one husband-wife team, so I'm gonna go with them.
There you go.
I think Brian Cox and Q or M.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one.
I keep saying I'm sorry, guys.
Humana.
What do you love about this show? Noah, what do you love about the show?
The scenery is great. It really is beautiful scenery. That's all I got.
Max.
Brian Cox is genuinely flexing his acting chops, given, an absolute garbage script, and he's having fun with it, and I respect that.
I love the frenetic Italian section of this. Like them trying to talk to the Italians was really fun, and it really makes me think I should be watching more Amazing Race because the Amazing Race is more of what I want. All right, so we do a stack ranking system between other reality shows. We do a top, middle, bottom, third. Some people stack rank in their stack ranks. Max, what do you got for me?
Bottom third for sure.
Hmm.
Middle of the bottom. It's not the worst thing we've seen, but I was so bored. I was watching this at 2.4x speed at some point, and I was so surprised to how little happened in the show.
Do you watch this on your computer?
I did.
Yeah, I wonder if you missed out by not watching it in HDR. I assume you don't have an HDR monitor. I'm just saying, if you're gonna watch the show, you definitely should be watching it on like.
I've gone to the real Skyfall Road IRL. Like, I don't need to see it in HDR on my TV screen.
This IRL thing again. No, I'm not telling you, Max. It's fine. You can watch it however you want. Just saying for the people at home. Noah, what's your ranking?
Bottom show. I guess it's top of the bottom just because we got Cox in there. He gives it at least 1 point up, and the scenery is nice, and I think there is some upward potential. But and to bring this up, as The Guardian in their TV review wrote, Road to a Million review, Brian Cox is so bad it could ruin Succession for you. This desperate Bond-themed reality show is shoddy, boring, and soulless. And the one time Logan Roy is so hammy, you'll never be able to rewatch his HBO epic again. 1 star out of 5. And so I think that captures a lot of my sentiment to the show.
Do you think Brian Cox is the problem with the show?
He doesn't really add to it. I actually think he's a nobody, which vehemently disagrees with Max's praise for him on this show. Outside the show, I think he's great.
I need to revise my answer. I'm bumping this up to top of the bottom because it features both Cox, Bone, and Bone. That's crazy.
Just one more thing in my review. The last sentence in the Guardian review, or the last two sentences, is for desperate eyes only. For everyone else, I would remind you that this is 8 hours long and you are not going to live twice.
Amazing.
It's
honestly funnier and more referential of James Bond than anything else in this fucking show.
Exactly.
I have a question for you too. Is Logan Roy his character in Succession?
Yes.
Okay. I was like, you kept mentioning Logan Roy, and I was like, who is Logan Roy?
So you've never seen Succession?
I watched the first part of season 1. And
oh man, you have. Wow. I mean, if you decide to dip back in, it is a tasty treat. A tasty treat waiting for you, man.
I need it to be comedic. I need it to be the righteous gemstones. I don't like watching rich people be dicks to each other. Like, no thank. I'm out. No thank you.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be like really about the Succession for a while, and then Brian Cox didn't die, and I was like, whatever. Anyway, my rating, I'm going to put in the bottom as well, although I definitely like it more than you two. And if they never go back to the Scottish Highlands and like the challenges are more interesting, it definitely could be better than bottom third. I think that the first challenge is a massive failure one of the biggest mistakes I think I've seen on a reality show in a while. But that makes the show you the first episode's got to be compelling, and you got to really come in with a banger.
And honestly, it rarely is. Like, I feel like for these shows, we should just drop into the middle.
I mean, we could have. It's one of those things we always struggle with that because there's no one who reviews individual episodes of reality shows, and I don't want to watch the season of television.
Right.
Who knows what the best episode is? So I don't know. Anyway, that's what we thought about the show. Tell us what you thought about the show on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Who Put This On, while we pull up. And next week, we're going to be watching the long-awaited Squid Game reality show that comes out today or yesterday, depending on when this episode gets out there, November 22nd. And I'm sure The Guardian has bad things to say about this show as well. And we'll see if it's any good next week. And now we do some shout outs of other stuff we've been doing, watching, entertainment, Max. Got any shout outs?
Me? Yeah. I watched The Curse episode 1 and 2. Episode 1 was excellent. Episode 2 was like a little less action packed. The Curse on Showtime with Nathan Fielder and Emma Stone. Also, Invincible season 2 is out. That's great. Yeah.
I just want to point out I wanted us to review The Curse on the podcast because we've done all of Nathan's other shows. And I keep getting confused between Fielder and Fillion, so that's my bad. But I was outruled. I was outvoted. We have to stick. We had to check out the 007 show. Noah, any shout outs?
I went through pretty quickly Blackbird on Apple TV. Really good drama based, inspired by a true story. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. And then listening to the new, what's his name, Adam Grant book, Hidden Potential. It's fun. It's Adam Grant read. So yeah, if you like his stuff, I would recommend it. What about you, Chris? What are you doing?
What have I been doing? I've been watching Invincible season 2. You should watch Invincible if you like gritty adult cartoon. I don't know. It's really good. I shouted this out a while ago, but Goosebumps has a really fun show. It really is. I watched the whole season, and the last episode was really good. Highly recommended. That's what you should be watching. It's like family friendly, brings you back to just kind of like, it's just like fun. There's some teen drama you can get into or not into. Doesn't really matter, but it's fun. I would recommend that for sure.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's it for us this week. You can find us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Who Put This On. You can find us on Facebook.com/WhoPutThisOn. You can give us questions, suggestions at WhoPutThisOn@gmail.com. And I just want everyone to know that Max, every time I say X, Max just rolls his eyes at me, and that's all the better.
He's very upset. Max,
do you know anybody who refers to it as X?
Me,
Chris, and I do as well. Yeah. So
why?
You are 2-1 here. 2-1.
Yeah, outvoted, Max. Outvoted.
They change your name. I mean, when people change your name, you call them by the new name.
He didn't do that for his daughter, so fuck him.
What do you wait? What's his daughter's name?
He has a daughter, a kid that transitioned, and refused to acknowledge it. So
Really?
like dead names them. So yeah.
So wait,
I think it's valid
Never
to
heard
dead.
that. Huh.
Oh, I'm not getting into that right now.
I mean, I assume I know what it means. It's like when
Yeah.
someone, yeah. But I've never
So
heard the term.
Elon's a piece of shit, and you should do whatever bothers him.
Huh, well,
Is my hot take.
That's
I am
exactly
supportive
why I
of that.
call it X. He decided that Twitter, this perfectly good name worth billions of
And-
dollars was not good enough for him.
And
So
you should continue to call it Twitter.
no, because that helps him. X does not help him. Anyway, we're off tracks. We'll see you guys next time.